Medicine on behalf of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. May I inform you that the academic procession will soon file in, and when the academic procession files in, you are expected to please rise and remain standing until the academic procession takes its seat. Also, you are please expected to rise and remain standing when the national anthem and the UI anthem are played. Furthermore, we are broadcasting this program live on UI Diamond Radio 101.1 FM and streaming it live on UI website with the address www.live.ui.edu.ng, as well as on YouTube at UI Premier TV. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, inaugural lectures in this university are very significant to our reputation and day-to-day excellent academic activities. We will therefore appreciate your cooperation by observing a solemn atmosphere during and throughout this lecture. We will appreciate it if you do not move about during the lecture. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Kayode O. Adebowale, MNI, FAS, deeply appreciates your presence at this lecture. Thank you, and you are most welcome. You are God. May we please rise as the procession files in. Thank you.
Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, the Registrar, the Bursar, University Librarian, Provost of the College of Medicine, Provost of the Postgraduate College, the Dean of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Deans of other faculties and of students, Directors of institutes and centers, Heads of departments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The 577th University of Ibadan inaugural lecture will be delivered this evening by Professor Victoria Olushola Adetunji of the Department of Veterinary Public Health and Preventive Medicine on behalf of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. Professor Victoria Olushola Adetunji ni Orojobi was born in 1969 to the family of late Pa Dr. Joshua Oyewole Orojobi and Mrs. Oluyinka Orojobi of Modakeke, Osun State. She attended Salvation Army Primary School, Modakeke, Osun State, before she moved to Local Education Authority Primary School, Samaru, Zaria, between 1979 and 1980. She later completed her primary education at Ahmadu Bello University Staff School, Samaru, Zaria, between 1980 and 1981. For her secondary education, she attended Federal Government College, Bakori, Funtua, Katsina State, where she earned the West African School Certificate in 1986. In 1988, she gained admission to the University of Ibadan, where she obtained the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine DVM degree in 1995, a master's degree in preventive veterinary medicine in 1998, and a PhD in 2007. Her academic excellence earned her the Junior Fulbright Scholarship, which facilitated some aspects of her PhD research at the University of Georgia in the United States. She later did her postdoctoral studies in the Department of Food Science of the same institution between 2012 to 2013. Professor Victoria Adetunji joined the services of the University of Ibadan on July 27, 1999, and rose through the ranks to become a professor on October 1, 2014. She has served the University of Ibadan in various capacities. This includes member of the Faculty Ceremonials Committee 2002 and 2009, convener Departmental Ceremonials Committee between 2009 and 2011, Departmental Examinations Officer undergraduate between the year 2000 and 2011, Departmental Representative of Faculty Publications Committee between 2001 and 2002, Departmental Clinic Officer between 2003 and 2005, member Faculty Timetable Committee between 2002 and 2008, Departmental Staff Student Liaison Officer between 2008 and 2009, Assistant Hall Warden, Obafemi Awolowo Hall, between 2010 and 2012, Representative Faculty Board of Science between 2009 and 2011, Representative Central Appointments and Promotion for Junior Staff between 2011 and 2012, Sub-Dean Postgraduate of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine between 2015 and 2017, member of the University Senate between 2002 and 2005, and between 2008 till date, member Development Committee of Senate between 2022 till date, chairperson of the Animal Care and Use Ethics Committee between 2020 and 2023, and head of the Technical Committee of the Fleming Laboratory of the Veterinary Teaching Hospital between 2024 till date. She is currently the head of the Department of Veterinary Public Health and Preventive Medicine. Outside the University of Ibadan, Professor Victoria Adetunji has served as external examiner for DVM, MSc, and PhD programs, and as external assessor to professorial appointments in several institutions, including the University of Development Studies in Ghana, the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Babcock University, Ilishan Remo, and the University of Ilorin, among others. Professor Victoria Adetunji is a registered member of the Veterinary Council of Nigeria and a distinguished member of the professional bodies such as the American Society of Microbiology, the International Society of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy, the Nigerian Veterinary Medical Association, Fulbright Alumni Association, Schlumberger Faculty for the Future, Organization for Women in Science for Developing Nations, for Developing World, African Women in Agricultural Research and Development, among others. In addition, she is a member and partner of the African One Health Network for Disease Prevention, with a focus on building capacity for sustainable antimicrobial stewardship across sub-Saharan Africa, and also a partner of the Climate Antimicrobial Resistance Network, CLIMA, with a focus on tackling antimicrobial resistance globally. Professor Victoria Adetunji is a reviewer of some academic and professional journals. These include Veterinary Medicine International, GAC Antimicrobial Resistance, PLOS Global Public Health, Nigerian Veterinarian of Public Health Programs in private universities in Nigeria. Furthermore, she served on the committee that coordinated the containment of COVID-19 in Oyo State between 2021 and 2022. She also participated in the development, review, and validation of the National Action Plan of Nigeria, NAP 2.0, between 2024 and 2028 on antimicrobial resistance, as well as in the development of protocols for passive surveillance on antimicrobial resistance in the animal sector for the country. Professor Victoria Adetunji's research focuses on microbial risk analysis and antibiotic susceptibility of pathogenic bacteria from foods of animal origin, food processing environments, and associated workers. She has served as the principal investigator for various research groups comprising early career researchers and postgraduate students, with some projects supported by the University of Ibadan Senate Research Grant and other fellowships. Our collaborations extend to prestigious institutions such as the University of Georgia in the United States, the University of Helsinki in Finland, Animal and Plant Health Agency in the United Kingdom, and the Federal Institute for Risk Assessment in Berlin, Germany. Notably, she recently supervised 2 PhD projects in partnership with scientists from the Federal Institute for Risk Assessment in Berlin, Germany, and the University of Helsinki in Finland. The first project focused on the prevalence of methicillin resistant and methicillin susceptible Staphylococcus aureus and associated risk factors in southwest Nigeria. The second, conducted in collaboration with a faculty member in the Department of Food Hygiene and Environmental Health of the University of Helsinki in Finland, investigated the molecular epidemiology of a extended spectrum of beta-lactamase producing Escherichia coli in broilers in Ilorin, Kwara State, Nigeria. Her contributions to research and capacity building have been recognized through numerous awards and scholarships. This include the National Youth Service Corps Award in 1997, the Fulbright Junior Scholarship in 2005, Schlumberger Faculty for Future Postdoctoral Fellowship in 2012, African Women in Agricultural Research and Development Fellowship between 2013 and 2016, Fleming Funds Fellowship between 2018 and 2019, and MacArthur Staff Development Grant, among many others. Professor Victoria Adetunji has successfully supervised and co-supervised numerous PhD theses, master's dissertation, and undergraduate projects in veterinary public health. She has over 110 journal articles and research publications in reputable peer-reviewed outlets, and has participated and presented academic papers in both national and international conferences. Beyond academics, Professor Adetunji is a renowned Christian and a minister of God in the body of Christ. Her hobbies include reading and traveling. She is happily married to Pastor Dr. Christian Matthew Adetunji, and the union is blessed with wonderful and promising daughters. 4 of them. Ayoluwa, Oyoluwa, Enioluwa, and Ewaoluwa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and I invite Professor Victoria Olushola Adetunji to present her lecture, which is titled The 3 Adversaries, the Voyage of a Public Health Veterinarian. Professor Adetunji.
The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Innovation and Strategic Partnership, Registrar, Bossa, Librarian, Provost College of Medicine, Dean, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Provost Postgraduate College, Deans of other faculties and of students, my academic and professional colleagues, members of my family, gentlemen of the print and electronic media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I thank the Almighty God for preserving my life, making this day possible to deliver the 577th inaugural lecture of the University of Ibadan. I appreciate the Dean of the Faculty for nominating me. I'm deeply honored by all your presence, and I thank God for bringing you here safely. This lecture is the 48th from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine and the 7th from the Department of Veterinary Public Health and Preventive Medicine. These are past inaugural lectures from the Department of Veterinary Public Health. By God's special grace and favor, I am the 4th female to give such a lecture from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. I have always looked forward to this day to share my thoughts with the university community and the public in general. I shall be giving an account of my academic stewardship of about 25 years in the University of Ibadan. This lecture is centered on 3 aspects of food safety: bacteria, virulence of food processing relevance, residues, contaminants, and antimicrobial resistance from the veterinary public health point of view, hence the title, The 3 Adversaries, the Voyage of a Public Health Veterinarian. My career interest was sparked much earlier when I was just 10 years old, growing up on a university campus in northern Nigeria. I was influenced by my father's part-time livestock keeping activities, and I vividly recall veterinarians visiting to treat the animals. These experiences ignited my curiosity and steered me towards studying veterinary medicine. Also, the inclusion of medicine in the discipline's name resonated with my aspirations, further solidifying my strong conviction of divine guardians in my career path. I've since come to firmly believe that veterinary public health represents a critical intersection of medicine. My journey into veterinary public health, particularly food safety, has not been without its challenges. A defining moment was during my interview for the Faculty for the Future Schlumberger Foundation Fellowship when asked, what is a veterinarian doing in food science? I took 25 minutes to elaborate on the interconnectedness of veterinary medicine and public health, highlighting key areas such as epizootiology, environmental health, zoonosis, and food hygiene. My specific focus on food safety, particularly concerning food of animal origin, emerged from these foundational principles. My interest in antimicrobial resistance was catalyzed by a personal experience when my third child was 2 years old. She exhibited high fever and failed to respond to all administered antimicrobials. One doctor speculated maybe the pathogens are hiding. In insight, I now recognize that the causal pathogens were likely embedded within an extracellular matrix known as biofilm. This realization influenced my research trajectory and continues to drive my work. I will be speaking further on this during this lecture. Veterinary public health is a contribution to the complete physical, mental, and social well-being of humans through an understanding and application of veterinary medical sciences. It involves hygiene of food of animal origin. Zoonoses are diseases naturally transmitted from vertebrate animals to humans and vice versa. The World Health Organization emphasizes that the veterinary public health is integral to the One Health, One World concept. One Health is a collaborative and interdisciplinary approach which intends to preserve human, animal, and environmental health through surveillance, prevention, and mitigation. Global health is focused on improving health and achieving health equity for all people worldwide. Foodborne diseases kill 200,000 people in Nigeria each year, and economic damage is estimated to be $3.6 million. Food safety, quality, and hygiene are not as important to a large segment of population who are primarily low-income earners. For these individuals, street vendors are their preferred sources of food because their primary goal is to satisfy their hunger, and they do not give much thought to safety status. 2021 in Kano, there was a Jewish poisoning outbreak that claimed 10 lives. In the same vein, in Okolo village, Kogi State, there was another diarrheic disease claiming the lives of 62 people in 2017. Notably, in this outbreak, this was subsequently linked to local food canteens, itinerant food vendors, booths, and reputable dinners. There's a need to enforce the use of railing system for meat processing, strict adherence to hazard analysis critical control point, and good practices by food service providers. To improve food safety in Nigeria, we must apply good manufacturing practices to ensure the microbiological safety of the food sold to the general population. The railing system for slaughterhouses and cutting plants is the ideal solution to optimize transportation and reduce contamination. And residue tests will also enhance meat safety. There's a need for continuous surveillance to identify circulating pathogens in order to prefer appropriate measures of control, especially with increase on AMR profiles of circulating strains. Biofilm is a community of microorganisms adhering to a surface within an extracellular matrix called exopolysaccharide or cellulose. Bacterial biofilms production is a major contributor to the development of many chronic infectious diseases and a crucial component of bacterial virulence as it largely promotes antimicrobial resistance, making such diseases hard to treat. Importantly, biofilms, when dispersed, can become a source of contamination in food processing. The emergence of antimicrobial resistance is a growing global concern. 7.7 million deaths were attributed to bacterial infections, and 4.95 million deaths of these were attributed to antimicrobial resistance. If left uncontrolled, AMR is projected to cause 10 million yearly human deaths in Africa by 2050, more than the deaths caused by cancer. Excessive use of antibiotics in medical, veterinary, and agricultural sectors as growth promoters and prophylaxis might be the root cause of worldwide AMR development. Injudicious sale of antibiotics over the counter, improper sanitation, and discharge of non-metabolized antibiotics, or their residues through feces. By this I mean open defecation and industrial effluents into the environment have worsened the problem. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in this lecture, I will discuss my studies, 1, on surveillance of bacteria in food of animal origin, Secondly, applied microbiology with a focus on biofilm, a virulence factor of food processing relevance. Thirdly, residues, contaminants, and antibiotic resistance in food of animal origin, including molecular studies aimed at identifying resistant genes and new spore types in circulation. I was employed as a lecturer grade 2 in the Department of Veterinary Public Health and Preventive Medicine on July 22, 1999, and was directed by the then head of department, Professor S.A. Agbede, to go to the public health unit of the department to work with Professor Dio Alonge, who also was my PhD project supervisor, titled Public Health Aspect of our Soft Cheese Processing. In the early part of my career, I focused on foodborne bacterial surveillance in food processing and food processing environment. This food processing environment includes the abattoir, the vended food of animal origin, and farms in southwestern Nigeria, and hazard analysis critical control point. Inspired by the density of buildings and the influx of students into the Agbowo community, I took an interest in the public health of residents. We, Adetunji, Odetokun 2011, therefore assessed the bacterial quality of groundwater of 40 wells in the Agbowo community. All the wells sampled had high total aerobic plate count, 4.76 log, and total coliform count, 2.29 log. These all exceeded international limits. Additionally, the distances between the wells and septic tank were 8.93 meters. The recommended limit for distances between wells and septic tanks, it should be a minimum of 15.24 meters. And so if you have a building plan, you should ensure that that distance minimum should be 15.24 meters. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, at the early stage of my research endeavors, I focused on assessing microbial status in milk products, meat, and fish processing, and identify critical control points along the processing line. Pathogen contamination in meat, fish, and dairy processing is a critical issue that poses significant challenges to food safety and public health. This concern becomes even more crucial in Nigeria, a country with rapidly growing population and a thriving meat and dairy industry. Foodborne pathogens such as Salmonella, E. coli, Campylobacter, and Listeria monocytogenes can contaminate meat and cheese during various stages of processing, including slaughtering, handling, storage, and distribution. The hazard analysis critical control point concept was the approach to identify and control potential hazards in the food production process. These hazards encompass potential biological, chemical, or physical contamination of such food products. We, Adetunji, Odetokun 2011, assessed bacterial hazards in goat processing line. And in this study, we found that there was an increase of counts from 12.7 log for before evisceration to 13.7 log after singeing, while the total aerobic plate count increased from 13.45 log for tables after washing to 14.01 log for tables or knives before washing. All these counts exceeded international limits. In another study, we investigated the presence of contamination and identified critical control points in the processing and retailing of frozen poultry products. In this study, it was revealed that we had very extremely high count of Listeria. There's a zero tolerance level for Listeria monocytogenes in food, and so it's worrisome to have high counts of Listeria in this study. The high count of Listeria was 7.78 to 9.586 log, and Enterobacteriaceae count was 7.15 to 9.318 log. All these counts exceeded international limits. Wara, a traditional West African stuffed cheese, is widely consumed dairy product for its unique taste and texture. However, its microbial quality can be compromised during production, storage, and distribution, leading to potential health risks for consumers. We, Ogushe, Adeola, and Adetunji, identified potential hazards including microbiological contaminants from raw milk, improper personal hygiene, chemical contaminants from additives, and physical contaminants from handling and environmental conditions. Vacuum packaging extended Wara soft cheese shelf life by inhibiting molds, yeast, and enterobacteriaceae, although the porous cheese structure allowed aerobic microorganisms to thrive. In another study, Adetunji, Alonge, and Chin, 2010, we examined the levels of aerobic and anaerobic microorganisms in the natural extracts of Carica papaya and terminally catapa plants, as well as the bactericid-like substance extracted from Lactococcus lactis, and we investigated the impact of these extracts on vacuum-packaged lemon juice cheese when treated with two different methods. The total aerobic plate counts were undetectable in the vacuum-packaged Calotropis procera cheese at 15 degrees centigrade. But we found that the combination of Carica papaya and terminally catapa crude extracts, along with Nisin, did not result in improved microbial quality of cheese. In fish processing, the total aerobic plate count increased significantly during the scalding and washing stage, indicating contamination from water bodies and handling. There were no significant thermal effects observed on heavy metals such as lead, cadmium, chromium, nickel, copper, and magnesium, table 12. However, smoking resulted in a significant reduction in iron, zinc, and manganese levels, with an increase in chromium, which could be toxic if consumed. I got exposed to biofilm studies during my research visit to the Department of Food Science, University of Georgia. To further understand biofilm formation, we executed a couple of studies on biofilm, including the ability to form on various surfaces, and we also attempted to control. Few reports are available in Nigeria on biofilms developed on glass with non-assayed on cement glasses. Adetunji and Adekoke 2008, Adetunji and Ishola 2011. In this study, we discovered that significantly higher biofilms developed on cement. Our findings conform to earlier studies that reported that biofilms are readily developed on static than dynamic surfaces. Cement is more hydrophilic than glass, facilitating bacterial adhesion and subsequent biofilm formation. Glucose-rich environments enhance biofilm production more in E. coli and Salmonella. Our result demonstrated that higher biofilm levels were formed at room temperature than at refrigeration temperature of 11 degrees centigrade, table 17A and B. We opined that the increased coli production in E. coli 157 strains might be responsible for the increased biofilm development. We, Adetunji et al. 2003, assayed Listeria monocytogenes from yogurt and wara cheese processing line. All the strains isolated produced biofilm, and they also produce isopolysaccharides at 24 and 48 hours of incubation, with biofilm and isopolysaccharide production increasing over time in 14 out of the 31 isolates. There was a weak positive correlation between biofilm and cellulose production at 48 hours. In another study, Adetunji, Kwaga 2014, we assessed the contamination potentials of some foodborne bacteria in forming biofilms on food products. We observed that the biofilm forming abilities at various degrees by different bacterial strains were significant, since biofilms in food processing areas are major sources of food contamination. Further, we discovered that the highest residual biofilm was in Staph aureus, followed by Listeria monocytogenes. Previously, it was shown that Mycobacterium tuberculosis could develop biofilms on polystyrene surfaces. However, the ability of Mycobacterium bovis to develop biofilms on cement, stainless steel, and ceramic surfaces had not been reported. So we observed that the two Mycobacterium bovis strains formed more biofilms on cement and on ceramic and stainless steel surfaces, table 15. Our study also assessed the role of iron in Mycobacterium bovis biofilm development and demonstrated that Mycobacterium bovis formed more biofilms in broth containing iron-rich liver extracts. In our study, Adetunji, Kainde, Bolatito, Chin 2014, we attempted to control biofilm formation, and therefore we evaluated two chemical sanitizers, sanitizer A and B, and found that both significantly reduced Mycobacterium bovis biofilm mass. Sanitizer B was more effective than A at 28 degrees centigrade, but the opposite was observed at 45 degrees centigrade. Sanitizer B contains two quaternary ammonium compounds, glutaraldehyde, isopropanol, pin oil, while sanitizer A contains active iodine. The effectiveness of both sanitizers increased at higher temperatures with treatments at 45 degrees centigrade, showing significant better results. Recommended preparation for these sanitizers were at room temperature. This finding highlights the need for continuous surveillance of efficacies of sanitizers and biocides in our markets. The third research aspect, residues, contaminants, and antibiotic resistance. Tetracycline, lead, and cadmium are among the common residues or contaminants found in food of animal origin, and their presence can have adverse effects in public health. Causes include improper use as growth promoters or prophylaxis, poor management and lack of guidance on withdrawal periods, subtherapeutic doses for treatment of infections, animal fecal recycling, drug residues can contaminate feed of untreated animals, open defecation can also contaminate the environment. Extra-label use of antimicrobials, use of human preparations for treatment in animals. All these foster antimicrobial resistance. Residues in animal-derived foods like meat, milk, and eggs can result in allergic reactions, antimicrobial resistance, and carcinogenicity. This cannot be eliminated with heat treatment. We have done an earlier study that proved that it cannot be completely eliminated in 2011. There's need for restriction of antibiotic use, and withdrawal periods are strongly recommended. Our study investigated the levels of tetracycline, lead, and cadmium residues in frozen chickens sold in 2 major cities of Nigeria, Lagos and Ibadan. And our findings revealed alarming levels of tetracycline residues in the frozen chicken samples from both Lagos and Ibadan. Our study, Adetunji et al. 2013, investigated the presence of oxytetracycline and penicillin G residues in cattle slaughtered in southwestern region of Nigeria. It revealed detectable levels of all the antibiotics in all tissues, with the highest concentration in muscles, followed by liver, and the lowest level in kidneys. The level of lead found in muscle, liver, and kidney tissues exceeded maximum limits set by Codex. This is of serious public health importance. For several other studies, Adetunji 2012, ABC, Tona et al. 2013, overall, there was consistent residues of tetracycline found in all these studies, exceeding permissible levels, and the presence of chloramphenicol, which has been banned in developed countries. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, consumer lifestyles and a relentless pursuit of convenience has resulted in many eating from eateries. We, Ajulo et al. 2019, wanted to know the safety levels of chicken products from eateries of various standards. Our study investigated the antibiotic sensitivity profiles of Salmonella typhimurium and E. coli 05787 isolates from ready-to-eat chicken meat in various eateries in Ibadan. To achieve our objective, a total of 500 ready-to-eat chicken samples were collected from various restaurants. The eateries were classified as standard, semi-standard, or substandard based on their general appearance, their perceived level of hygiene, and the quality of food and service they provided. We found high resistance to cefuroxime, augmentin, and ampicillin in salmonella isolates, as well as resistance to augmentin and ampicillin in E. coli. In other studies, we found 100% resistance to augmentin and cloxacillin in Listeria isolates from milk. Occurrence of E. coli 05787 was significantly higher in urine samples compared to water samples in this study among the abattoir workers. This is of concern because the abattoir workers could be a source of contamination. All studies did to form biofilms, and 94% of respondents in this study actually took antibiotics for strength. They woke up each day and took antibiotics for strength. This is a strong abuse of antibiotics. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, knowledge, attitude, and practices constitute a triad of interactive factors characterized by dynamism and unique interdependence. To help identify knowledge gaps and misconceptions that have hindered the adoption of preventive measures in food safety and containment of AMR, we conducted various studies. I will be presenting some selected findings. There was evidence of unprescribed use of antibiotics in poultry and a failure to observe antibiotic withdrawal periods. Majority of the cattle handlers were not aware of antibiotic residues. And then there was unwholesome practices, including pulling of unsold milk and addition of unsterilized water to milk. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, sugar toxin producing E. coli strains in food products, particularly milk, are a critical concern for public health. We, Gali et al. 2023, therefore explore the diversity of non-E. coli 0157 isolates found in commercially available milk in Kwara State. And then we also wanted to find the genetic diversity and potential risks associated with these strains. In this study, specifically, we focus on the GAD, ISS, and IPFA genes, which are associated with colibacillosis outbreaks in animals. We also were able to identify the Blatem ID, the Blatem IB, the BLA-OXA 486, and the BLA-CTM15 detected in this study. These resistant genes are actually linked to both to resistance in both cattle and humans. The SOL2 gene and the DFRA genes were also identified in the isolates. The tetracycline-resistant genes, such as the TET-A, the TET-B, were found in significant proportion of E. coli strains. Specifically, we identified 4 new sequence types of the non-057 isolate. Additionally, in the studies on E-trees, we were able to find out that the knowledge and requirement for food safety hygiene during chicken proportion was evident in all the eateries, but though this was not an affirmation on the quality of hygiene being processed, it can be assumed that the standard practices are standard because of neat environment mainly, rather than the presence of upgraded hygienic practices. The resistant pattern of E. coli 057H7 and Salmonella isolate showed resistance to ceftazidime, cefuroxime, augmentin, nitrofurantoin, and ampicillin, tables 48, 49. Significantly in this study, we found 2 variants of E. coli 057H7, unit G1 and unit G2. The unit G2 strain is resistant to aminoglycosides. The Salmonella typhimurium DT104 exhibits multiple resistant genes. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, to corroborate our findings, we reviewed gastroenteritis cases caused by food poisoning at University College Hospital, Ibadan. Our findings show that outpatients presented the highest diarrhea cases. Significantly, we found that ciprofloxacin and metronidazole were the drugs of choice in all wards. The latter can harm the fetus in the first trimester. Laboratory results revealed stool either did not isolate Salmonella, Shigella, or had no result, or was not even done at all. Abattoirs are recognized as a critical link in spreading pathogenic bacteria, including multi-drug resistant organisms that can cause difficult to treat infections in humans and animals. We determined the prevalence of methicillin-resistant Staph aureus and methicillin-sensitive Staph aureus in 2 municipal abattoirs in Nigeria, Adetunji et al. 2018 and 2022. We found a prevalence of 1.08% of methicillin-resistant Staph aureus out of the 1,671 samples tested. On evolutionary strain relationship, our results revealed 19 different spar types, including a novel spar type, T16751, found in this study. All the spar types of Staph aureus strains have a common internal code with their genetic distance not too far apart, indicating that they are from a common ancestry, figure 24, and can be largely divided into 3 clades. We found that detection rates of PVL genes in Staph aureus strains isolated in this study were very high. Methicillin-resistant isolates demonstrated varying antibiotic antimicrobial resistant profiles patterns, that's table 61, with all strains showing complete resistance to tested beta-lactamase antibiotics, and some levels of resistance to other antimicrobials. Demonstrated resistance profile seems to be influenced by the spar type, the sequence type, and the strains which were the T16571, which is a novel spar type found in this study. It remains unclear whether resistance to biocides in clinical isolates leads to cross-resistance to antibiotics. So we therefore, Mustafa, Adetunji, and others, we therefore present the first report of co-occurrence of resistance to 2 classes of disinfectants and several classes of antibiotics in extensively drug-resistant E. coli isolated from broilers in Ilori, Kwara State. Most of the ESBL E. coli were multi-drug resistant and extra-drug resistant and conferred resistance to several antibiotics. The multi-drug efflux pump, MDFA, was detected in all isolates. The study demonstrated high diversity of E. coli ESB and E. coli isolates in poultry. Importantly, the overarching finding in this study was that 71% of the isolate had 80% of probability of becoming human pathogens. This shows the seriousness of the resistant profile we're having currently. I conclude on AMR studies by citing significant findings from 2 studies. This ongoing study, Adetunji et al. 2024, was designed to determine antibiotic resistance and ESBL production in E. coli and Salmonella species from farms. I will be reporting our data for commercial poultry farms in Ibadan. We found Salmonella serovirus to include Dugbe and Ketonki serotype. The Ketonki serotype is a non-typhoidal Salmonella that causes human infection. We found high resistance frequency of E. coli compared to Salmonella. Over 80% of isolates had resistance to fluoroquinolones, with a similar percentage having resistance to tetracycline. Multi-drug resistant isolates were subsequently identified. 50% of isolates carried the fluoroquinolone resistant genes, and the highest sequence type was the ST10. In silico serotyping of the 58 sequence isolates revealed that they belong to 26 different serotypes, with 0176H12 being the most prevalent. Resistant genes found include genes resistant to aminoglycoside, sulfametazole, trypometrim, tetracycline, ampicillin, and fluoroquinolones. Those were the resistant genes identified. Antimicrobial resistance in poultry in Nigeria, systemic review of reports, 2005 to 2020. Previous reviews on AMR data in Nigeria have not considered the accuracy of methods and interpretation criteria. Therefore, in contribution to One Health, in this study, we did a comprehensive review, collated, curated, and analyzed AMR published data in the Nigeria poultry sector and assessed AST methods and interpretation criteria. E. coli was the second most presented bacterium in the papers examined. Quinolones were the most tested, and they had very high or high resistance categorization. The multiple antimicrobial resistance index was greater than 0.5 for both Salmonella and E. coli in 38.9% and 44.8% respectively. Overall, isolates were multi-drug resistant, and more resistance were reported for Southwest, North Central, and Northwest regions in Nigeria, figure 44. We identified gaps in AST methods, and interpretation include lack of controls included in the study. We therefore recommend standardization of AST methods globally. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the high spot of my research engagement, the crucial factors in all meat and dairy processing facilities revolve around ensuring appropriate cleanliness and sufficient sanitation measures. Additionally, appropriate processing surfaces, inadequate refrigeration, storage conditions can facilitate the growth of bacteria, exacerbating the risk of contamination with biofilm-forming pathogens and spread of antibiotic-resistant genes. By shedding light on this critical topic, it is hoped that stakeholders, including government authorities, industry players, food vendors, and consumers, can work collaboratively to implement effective measures that ensure safety and quality of meat, dairy, and other animal products. My contributions in the University of Ibadan and at national levels. I served as the Animal Care and Use Research Ethics Committee 2020-2023 as the chairperson, and at this time we published the first edition of the ACUREC manual. Secondly, we created the ACUREC website with the support from items. I have presented and offered various trainings to pharmacists, private veterinarians, farmers, technologists, and communities, focusing on AMR stewardship and capacity for AMR surveillance. A high point for me was my undergraduate students presenting their research findings at the African World One Health Conference, and they've had them published. To support the objectives set in Nigeria's National Action Plan for AMR, we established a One Health AMR Community of Practice. The establishment of this community has helped to strengthen personal and institutional capacities in Nigeria, Denmark, and the United Kingdom, and has created a network of scientists working together to tackle AMR. I served as a member of the accreditation team of the National University Council on public health programs in private universities. I had the privilege of being invited to participate, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir. While the University of Ibadan is the first and the best with the private institutions now competing with our studentry, making our lecture rooms, teaching resources, and environments smart, in addition to consistent academic calendar, will be an attraction point. I also partook in the development and validation of the National Action Plan on Antimicrobial Resistance for Nigeria recently. This document has been validated and it has been launched. I also took part in the development of the protocols for passive AMR surveillance in the animal sector for Nigeria. This has also been validated. I served as a technical expert on Oyo State COVID-19 Containment and Decontamination Committee 2020-2021. It is my hope that the lessons learned during the COVID-19 pandemic on good hygienic practices are not forgotten. This reminder is of great importance, especially with China experiencing a surge in human metapneumovirus infections after 5 years of COVID-19 pandemic. I served as a chairperson, Fleming Fellowship Alumni Steering Committee, where we develop a governance document and also objectives to impart on Fleming Fellows and alumni alike. Summary and conclusion. I have in the last 40 minutes or so shown you the potential havoc these three adversaries, bacteria, biofilm, and antibiotic resistance have played, and the associated danger if not curbed. My studies and surveillance of foodborne bacterial pathogens have enabled me to contribute to public health locally and abroad. Stemming from this was my invitation for the Antimicrobial Resistance National Action Plan for Nigeria. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, moving forward, it is my hope that with availability of funds and necessary equipment, there are still areas I wish to explore in AMR dynamics towards its containment. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, from my research and experiences, I wish to make the following recommendations. There's a need to promote and encourage One Health approach in research across departments, faculties, and sectors to have more robust outcome and impact. The Department of Veterinary Public Health and Preventive Medicine has been plagued with voluntary retirement and retirement of 3 professors within the past 1 year, sir. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I humbly use this medium, sir, to request and reiterate our request for more academic staff. My studies have shown that appropriate food contact surfaces for processing and storage are steel and glass surfaces to discourage biofilm development. There's a strong need to emphasize the need for stringent regulations on veterinary medicines in food animals to prevent toxic antibiotic residues in commercially produced animals. Alternative growth promotion methods could be addition of probiotics to feeds and improving biosecurity. A multifaceted collaborative approach is necessary to reduce zoonotic transmission of multi-drug resistant bacteria. There's a need for more advocacy for rational drug use. Notably, AMR research must also consider gender and equity lens to improve implementation, AMR intervention, and enhance project uptake. In the AMR effort, Nigeria needs to develop sustainability plans to ensure continued engagements, interventions, and research efforts directed towards containment when the international support dwindles. Resistant genes and plasmids circulate through food, hence there's an urgent need for the government of Nigeria, relevant stakeholders, and NGOs to invest in educational campaign programs among the hard-to-reach and often educationally disadvantaged individuals who engage in indiscriminate use of antibiotics. Remember, a threat to one is a threat to all, and a threat anywhere is a threat everywhere. Use antimicrobials responsibly. Acknowledgement. Late Dr. J.O. Ikaila and late Professor Gboladuro Jaye, who taught me the rudiments of bacterial isolation and education. Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka for the opportunity to serve as the ACOREC chairperson. the Vice Chancellor, Professor K.O. Adebowale, for fostering an enabling environment with support. Thank you very much, sir. The current Dean of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine for nominating me and for support for this inaugural lecture, as well as the past deans, particularly Professor R. Arowolo, late Professor Olufemi, late Professor Oke, late Professor Gudipe, Professor Olopade, Professor Adetunji, and Professor Oyeyemi, with whom I had the privilege of serving as a sub-dean postgraduate of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. Professor D.O. Alonge and Professor G.O. Adegoke, Professor Adegoke is here seated, supervised my PhD thesis. Thank you, Prof, for coming in when my PhD was dragging. Professor S.A. Agbede, who provided me with my first employment opportunity, my collaborators, Professor Jeruchin, the Fleming team, Professor Kainde A.O., Professor Anamari, the Veterinary Public Health Unit, Professor Olafumilayo Ajani, Dr. Idowu Fagbamila, Professor Oyetunde Oyeyemi, Professor Rene, and Dr. H.K. Awosanya. I also want to specifically thank the committee, the inaugural committee that edited these write-ups. I really appreciate you. My spiritual fathers, Bishop David Bakare, late Reverend G.F. Oyo, the Chaplaincy, Chapel of the Resurrection, Engineer Richard Imoese, Professor Iwayemi, Ibadan Varsity Christian Union, late Professor E.K. Adeshogo, Choir, Chapel of the Resurrection, Pastor J.A. Adioshun. My mentors, Jirochil, thank you for making your lab available and teaching me biofilm studies. Professor Gio Adekeke, Professor Kwaga, Roderick Card, thank you for resources and for enhancing my capacity for AMR surveillance. Professor Lami Lombi, Professor Veronica Umo, my female model. Staff, non-academic, of the Department of Veterinary Public Health, and the academic staff, in particular, Mr. Olayemi Okunlade, thank you. The graduating class, 1995 graduating class, you are part of this story. Thank you for the support, and thank you for being here. Students, particularly Drs. Odetokun, Mohammed, Ajulo, Mustafa, Olasoju, Olaoye, Bolatito, Ishola, among others. You were the pivoting points for most of these studies. I appreciate you. Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World, Ibadan branch, thank you for the support. My in-laws, particularly late Pastor Ezekiel Adetunji, who was a father figure, thank you. My siblings, Bose, Shayo, Kunle, Yomi, and Jumoke, thank you for your support. My parents, on a personal note, I honor the memory of my late father, Dr. J.O. Orojobi. I thought you were going to be here today, for laying the foundation of my academic journey. Thank you, Daddy. I also thank my mother, Mrs. Oluyinka Orojobi, whose care and sacrifices provided me with stability and nourishment. Thank you, Mommy. She's here seated. Thank you. God bless you. To my children, my wonderful children, Ayoluwa, Oyiloluwa, Enioluwa, Ewaoluwa, thank you for the patience, understanding, and love. And thank you for taking care of me when the chips were down. Thank you. Thank you. And lastly, to my husband, I owe an immeasurable debt to my beloved husband, Pastor Dr. Christian Matthew Adetunji, for his unwavering sacrifice, encouragement, and support. Words cannot fully capture my gratitude. I thank you most sincerely, and I appreciate you. I also want to thank all my sponsors, so many of them. Without the resources, I couldn't have done all I did. And lastly, to the God Almighty, the Oluwa Kosheunti, the invisible God, my maker, my enabler, to you be all the glory. Thank you for listening. Thank you.